This is a technique video describing an arthroscopic anatomic glenoid repair using distal tibial allograft with an inferior to superior capsular shift, addressing recurrent anterior shoulder instability following traumatic dislocation in the presence of capsular laxity. All authors have no relevant disclosures pertaining to this work. The patient is placed in the lateral decubitus position with a beanbag holder and rotated approximately 30 degrees to align the articular surface of the glenoid parallel to the floor. The left arm is abducted to 60 degrees and held in balanced suspension. A standard posterior portal is used to place an anterior superior and anterior inferior portal using an outside-in approach. A traction suture is placed at 3 o'clock in the anterior labrum and secured with a racking hitch knot. The suture will be used for control and manipulation of the labrum later in the procedure. The anterosuperior glenohumeral capsule is then transected superior to the traction suture. Transection continues until the coracoacromial ligament and the conjoined tendon are visualized. An ablator is used through the antero-inferior portal to remove adhesions to the coracoid neck and release the labrum from 12 to 6 o'clock. It is important to release everything between the labrum and glenoid neck so that the muscle belly of the subscapularis can be clearly seen. A burr is used to decorticate the anterior rim of the glenoid, creating a perpendicular surface with minimal ridges and visible bleeding cancellous bone. Here we can see the decorticated anterior glenoid rim forming a perpendicular surface with the articular surface of the glenoid. The midpoint of the decorticated rim is then marked to inform subsequent tunnel placement and graft alignment. A double glenoid drill guide is aligned perpendicularly to the glenoid rim at the level of the midpoint marking and used to create inferior and superior transglenoid tunnels. The drill is advanced so that the edge of the sleeve aligns with the anterior edge of the glenoid. Two double-tail suture anchors are placed on the anterior edge of the glenoid, one inferior to the inferior transglenoid tunnel and the second between the midpoint marking and the superior tunnel. Suture tails are retrieved through the posterior portal. Monofilaments are passed anteriorly through the transglenoid tunnels and received through the anterior-inferior portal. These will function as suture passers for the endobutton suture tails during graft passage. The antero-inferior portal is dilated and the prepared graft is brought adjacent to the anterior rim of the glenoid as the endobutton suture tails are received posteriorly through the transglenoid tunnels. The graft is tensioned to 100 newtons. Sutures are then secured with Nice knots. A switching stick is used to guide reduction, and adjustments to graft positioning are made using a probe. The fully reduced graft shows a minimal gap at the margin, and there is no translation in response to force sufficient to bend a probe. The three most superior suture tails of the anchors at the margin of the graft are retrieved through the antero-inferior portal. Tension is applied to the traction suture to shift the capsular tissue superiorly. A curved suture passer is threaded inferiorly and passed below the level of the most inferior anchor on the glenoid, retrieved through the posterior portal, and used to thread the most inferior suture tail of the inferior anchor through the antero-inferior portal. The suture tails of the inferior anchor are then tied with a modified clinch knot using a knot pusher and needle driver through the antero-inferior portal. The process is repeated with the tails of the superior suture anchor. The capsule has now been shifted superiorly, yielding a bumper of tissue at the margin of native glenoid and graft. A knot cutter is used to cut the tails to 2 millimeters. A knotless anchor is used to reattach the traction suture to the superior glenoid. The amount of superior shift of the capsule can be measured from the shift from 3 o'clock. Finally, a mallet is used to secure the anchor into the bone, and a knot cutter is used to trim suture tails to 2 millimeters. Here we see the final view of the completed repair. Glenoid width has been augmented and the capsular tissue has been tensioned and shifted superiorly, restoring glenohumeral integrity. Thank you for watching.